So this is Nav. He is a mobile software engineer at Manulife and is also a GDG Windsor lead. His superpowers are Kotlin, you could tell by his shirt, and playing with new technologies. Yeah, new technologies like Jetpack Compose, Flutter, Swift UI, and that's what named just a few. What gets him up in the morning? Nav, you tell Dino what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah, it's just I am my own motivation just to serve, better stuff to people. And it's not about doing day-to-day job, but apart from that, I'm like writing articles for community or like leading the GDG-Montreal. It's not a Windsor, so I just want to
Sorry,
correct you here. Yeah, it's
Montreal.
okay. Yeah. So yeah, like holding events and just I'm pretty much just quite active on the different Slack communities over the for related to Android and Twitter too. Yeah. So
Nice. Good
yeah,
stuff.
that's all about noise.
Well, we're so
So
happy to have you here, Nav. What I'm
yeah,
going to do is I'm going to um, pop off the screen, so it'll all be you, and then I'll come
yeah,
back. Let me know when you wrap everything up, and I'll come back on. Okay. Oh,
yeah, sure.
if you have any questions for now, what you can do is type the word question, and then put your question afterwards, and then Nav will be able to answer all your questions afterwards. Okay. We'll catch you soon.
Okay. You able to see my screen?
You betcha. Dino,
Okay.
can you see the screen? Dino. I'm sure you can see your screen. I can see it. It's all good.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. Good stuff.
So
Catch you later.
okay. Okay. So hi everyone. So welcome to our first virtual Dev Fest Great Note 2020. And I hope you guys enjoying it so far, like the all other talks. So today's talk, it's about accessibility in Android world. So what we cover in this talk is like about how we can implement and how we can test it and how we can make sure that our app is accessible to all people, those who have any kind of disability. So let's get started. So first, what is accessibility? It's about making sure like our Android users who have limited vision or any physical impairments, they can use your application as a normal user who will like using it your application like as a normal, those who don't have any kind of issues related to their health like a touch like gestures and all that stuff. And this is like a small definition about accessibility. You can learn more about by going to the web about it. And what's the impact of accessibility in our Android apps? So the first thing is like it increase your app's reach. Like according to the World Bank, it's like a 15% or more people they have some kind of a disability, and they have issues related to they sometimes they're not able to communicate or it's hard for them to learn or write. So by making our apps more accessible by using some kind of tools, we can get more users for into our app. And the second is improving the app's versatility. So accessibility, it can make it easier for all users, and we providing them more options how they can interact with our app, like using a Talkback or any other external devices like mouse, keyboards, or trackball or D-pad, something like those. Those kind of options are there. So this is basically just not developing for people those who are having some kind of disabilities, but it's actually providing extra functionality to the normal users, those who can simply interact with your applications. And now we'll see how Android enables accessibility. So if anybody has any issues, so what are the tools that are provided by the Android to make sure that they can easily use the user operating system overall or or specific apps. So one of the main ways Android enables accessibility, it's by allowing users to hear the spoken feedback. So whatever is currently you will see on the screen. So the tools like a talkback or screen reader, it will speak that options for you. And if there is anything like a buttons or the decorative views, it will behave or speak them properly, so at least user can interact also with those views that are currently visible to the screen. And very popular or service, accessibility service, which is provided by a operating system by default, it's the Talkback. And nowadays all the Android devices, they come with it by default, it's installed. But if you didn't find it in your device, you can simply go to the Play Store, and it's free, and you can easily download it from there. And now we will see some code examples, and we'll see how we can easily enable accessibility or integrate accessibility related core functionality into our apps by just simply, it's a very simple code. You can simply add some attributes to your existing views using your XML or by coding. So let's get to the coding part. So before I will show you the code, I will go through some basic guidelines that are required by accessibility. So the first one is the task flows. So when we are doing doing some kind of development in our applications, like integrating some new features or improving some new features, our main concern is like we need to make a clear task flows. So just like less steps and clear navigation, so user can easily understand the full process and easily can able to complete successfully your stuff. And the second is the action target size. So if there is any buttons or any clickable actions views are added into your layout, like buttons or text views, sometimes we create a web links using a text views, but we don't set their minimum height or width. We just simply use like a wrap content property, so it looks like very small. But the requirement is for target sizes is like a 48 dips, and it should be it's a minimum height or width for all the clickable actions in Android. So if it's not met, that means your app is not specific, like a justifying the accessibility requirement. So you need to make sure that you set the minimum or some like higher than the 48 dips height or width. And the next is the labeling the all user interface controls. So sometimes we have decorative views in our layouts, like images. Most of the time we use just for decorative purposes, like logos or any kind of images. So we need to make sure that we label all those views also. So if user is using talkbacks or screen reader, they at least know what that logo is for. Or if you don't, if you simply want to skip, you can add those to the property called Android content description into your views, and providing the description, which is it takes string value. So you can provide any string value or set it to a null if you simply want to talk back to skip that particular view. In case of, let's say, image you want to skip, just add that property and set it to a null. And the second example is set content description. It's from coding, like you call it set content description on any given view from your code. If it's a Kotlin or Java, whatever you are writing, so you can call this on any view. And then is the enabling the focus-based navigation. So in this case, like when user tries to use your external devices like a D-pad or trackball or keyboard, we need to make sure that when they're using the keys like arrows to move through your layout, we need to make sure that the navigation is properly navigating from one view to another view. So basically how it works is like it goes like as you rendered your or you have written your layout. So if the first view is text view and the next one is an image, it goes like text view first, then the next view which is you have written in the XML. But if you want to customize that, there are a few properties that you can add into your views, like how it should go, like where it should go next or where it should go last. And I will show you the demo samples, like how you can customize the navigation when the talkback is on. And now I will show you some sample implementation, how you can integrate all this stuff that I just explained to your layouts, or I can say in your applications. So here is the first example that I explained earlier, the image button. If it's a decorative or whatever, you need to make sure that you added the content description. And in my case, I just took sample, and this value, the @string, it comes from the resources, and I added that value here. So whenever the talkback is on, it comes to this button, the image button. It will speak its content description. And if you think it's not it's just for a decorative purpose, you can simply set it to null. Or for the APIs 28 or higher, there is a new property that you can add, is important for accessibility, and you can simply set it to no, and you don't need to add content description. That will simply, when talkback is on, it will simply tell to the talkback that this view is not important for accessibility. So the talkback will skip that when it's a time to process that view in your layout. And the second example, the text view, there are two properties. Like if you want your text views also to be treated as a, like sometimes we added links using text views, like some kind of terms and conditions, or opening web views from our code. So there are two properties. Either you set it to a forkable or a screen reader forkable true. The second property, which is screen reader forkable, it available for only P and higher versions of Android. So that's why I added the annotation, like a tools target API P, which means it's only available for P or higher. But the forkable, it's available for all the versions. So yeah, these are the two properties, but you can choose one of them. If you are targeting API 28, you can simply use the screen reader forkable one, or if you're targeting the lower versions, you can simply use the first one. And the third one is, it's a new attribute which is introduced by the Android team for Android version P or higher. Like, I don't know if you are familiar with the web, like how web works. There is a one like paragraphs, and then they have the headings. So the heading based navigation is now added into Android too. So it goes like, if you add any view like accessibility heading property to set it to true, it will treat it as a heading, and when talkback comes to that view particularly, it will speak the whatever value is there, and also adding the heading to that component. So the user can know, like it's going to be like the heading of a next view or the next content, and you can set that property to true, and it's only available for P or higher. So if you want to support for the lower versions, you can customize the content description for that given view from your code, like using the set content description method that I explained earlier. And next, the first example here, it's the custom. If you want to customize your navigation, so right now there are 4 views in the layout. If you render like this and there is no customization, custom navigation you want when user go navigating your layout using external devices, you don't need to add those properties like next, focus, forward, like I added to all these 3 views. But there are another options. It's not just next, focus, forward. There is a next, focus, left, right, top, bottom. So you can add according to your requirements. So in my case, I don't like from the first TV hello world text view, I don't want to go to the next hello world 2 by default. So I set like next, focus, forward. When user using the external device, it should go to the hello world 3 when the forward key is pressed. And same for the hello world 2, it should go to the image decorative, which is like the 4th view in our hierarchy here. And same for the hello world 3, then it comes from here, it goes back to this. So this is the custom navigation if you want to go from first, rather than by default navigation which is provided by your accessibility tools. And in the last view, in the image view, if you see here, I use it for only decorative purpose. So I set its content description to null. And there is another option, you can simply set important for accessibility property to no, and you can simply skip this property from your image view. And in the second example here, I use that property called label for, and the label for, you can provide the view to which it's going to be connected. So when it comes to the username entry edit text, it will speak the label thing that you added to this view. So in my case, I added the username, and I say like whenever it comes to this text view, it will speak for this one. So edit text has a label, this text view, and same for the password label. This one is for the password entry. So you can use like these kind of create connections between the different views in your layout using the label for property. And then there is also a property called accessibility live region, and it has three options. Like when you want to set it, there is assertive, none, or polite. So what basically this property providing us is like sometimes there are some views that comes like randomly, like there is some conditions, and if that condition is applied or that condition is met, we show some kind of a new widgets or new views to the user. So just take an example for a login screen, and if password is wrong or username is wrong, we show error message, but that is like a random, right? It's on basically if the something went wrong. So in those cases, we want to be like inform the user like what actually happened if they are using Talkback or if they have any kind of disability. So assertive means like it will override whatever Talkback is currently speaking. So if your control like actually selected control is password or username, the Talkback is speaking about that. And if this view shows up, the Talkback will automatically stop whatever it's doing right now, and it will start speaking about this view. So this is kind of aggressive behavior in this case in the assertive, and none, it will not, the Talkback or any other accessibility tool, they will not do anything if this widget is shows up to the screen. They simply process it when you actually start playing with your screen. And the third one is the polite. The Talkback will wait for whatever it's doing right now. So if its password field is there, it will speak about that, whatever is happening with that field or whatever you're doing with that field. And after that, it will speak about this view, which just added to the your layout. So there are three options that you can select according to your requirements. And the next sample is about the grouping of different views together and creating links between those. When the Talkback shows up, speaks about those views, it processes them like groups. So I will explain about a little bit about that. So in the first case, as you see, I use a screen reader Foxable property and its target API P. And in the second, I use the Foxable. So when you added this tags to the parent layout here, if it's the relative layout, and it has two text views, and same for this one, it has two text views. So when we add this property, it will override the content description. It will override the children's of that particular layout and treat them as a single group. So right now, if there are multiple widgets or the views inside that relative layout, it will speak them as a one group. So let's say I created one item like a quantity, like a label, and then it shows the quantity, how many number in the numbers. So it will speak it like as a quantity 10. So rather than going one by one, when users start moving the screen, it first goes to the quantity and then goes to one, which is not going to be a good experience at all. So if we treat them as a single unit, as a view, it speaks like altogether quantity 10. So that's why I added the property screen reader or the Foxable to treat those multiple things together as a one single item in your layouts. And you can use these kind of behaviors if you want to combine multiple views and treat them as a single view for your accessibility purpose. So those are all properties that you can add for providing better or the custom navigation or better accessibility support into your Android apps. Now we will see how we can test our app's accessibility. So we added all those properties, but still we need to make sure that actually whatever the content description we added, it makes sense when the Talkback is speaking about that. Is it able to easily understandable to the users? And we will see how we can test it. So let's see different ways how we can test our Android's applications accessibility. So there are various ways. The manual testing, you just start the app and using different tools to play with it and see if there is anything that needs to be fixed. The manual testing and the testing with analysis tool. There are different tools. The Talkback that I already explained is the by default provided by the Android team. And second is the accessibility scanner. It's also freely available on the Play Store. You can install it and I will show you how you can use it easily to find issues related to the accessibility in your applications. And third is automated testing. If you know about Espresso or Roboelectric, if you're writing already familiar with writing UI test, there is a very small addition to those existing tests, and it's like a 1 or 3 lines of code that you can integrate into your existing UI test for testing the accessibility when you're running your UI tests. And the last is the user testing. So we get the feedback from real people. We hand over our applications to the people, those who have any kind of disabilities, and we will see how easy they can perform any kind of process, any kind of transactions in your application. And if they found anything, any related issues, they will just you can just note them down and then work on them to fix to providing better user experience. And after that, there is a pre-launch report. It's on the Play console. So once you submit your app to the Play Store, they process it, and after processing, they generate some kind of reports. There are various reports. One of them is like a report related to the issues, and under that category, there is a one category which is related to the accessibility. So you can check there like what are the issues raised by the Play team, and if you want to if you it will also help you to figuring out what are the issues, and if you find anything critical you can go and fix from that report. Basically these are the main techniques to fixing any issues related to accessibility in your Android apps. So now comes to the coding part. If you already written any UI test for your application, this sample is written in Kotlin. So if it's in Java, you simply write a like removing JVM annotation and companion object. It's not existing in Java. So this is Kotlin stuff. So the first example is you write that method in your existing test, and that's it. What it do is like whenever your function or whenever your test function is called, it will check the accessibility issues related only to that particular view, which you are interacting in that particular test case. So just adding one line, it will make sure that whatever view is going to be tested in your tests, it will make sure that if there is any accessibility issues, your test is gonna fail, and you will see the errors in the logs, like what are the issues, if there is like a minimum touch target size issue or color contrast issues, or if any other issues are there, like missing content description kind of stuff. And the second example here, I added two additional functions or two additional functionalities to my accessibility checks. The first one is like I tell to ignore the any issues related to text contrast. If there is any color contrast issues related to this ID, text to be changed. Like it can be any view in your layout that you want to ignore. Like you don't care about the accessibility for that particular view. You can simply write any matches for that rule and just set to suppress those views, and accessibility check will ignore those failures. And the last property that I added, I set it to true for run checks from root view. So it doesn't matter which function is running. So it will go through the full layout. So if you have 5 views but you are only testing one functionality, like on click of some particular button, but still it will go through for the accessibility purpose, it will go through the full layout. And if it finds any issues related to any view, your test is going to be fail, and you will see the issues in your logs, if like what went wrong for accessibility. This is only a few lines of code that you need to add to your UI test to make sure to implement accessibility UI testing in Android. So now I can show you some real world examples, like how we can find the issues using accessibility testing in our applications. So let me show the code. So how we can use the accessibility scanner? So already installed. If you see in my pixel here, I installed the scanner, but you can simply go to the Play Store and look for this accessibility scanner. So in my case, it's already installed. I can open it. So in my case, it's already enabled, and I already go through some applications, and I found you will see the history, like what are the issues that you previously found in which application. So I created some very small application. It has 4 components, and first one is a text view. Second, this is a button. I set its height and width just to 24 dips if you see in the code here. And this image is missing the content description. And let's run the accessibility scanner and we will see what it shows us. So you get the two options: either you can record this session or you can snapshot. So in my case, I will choose snapshot. So now you see it took the screenshot and it will highlight the all the views which have issues. So in my case, these for three views having issues, and there are 4 suggestions. And there is option also to share these issues if you want, and you can share with anyone you want using Gmail or whatever options are there. So the first one is the text contrast, and it shows me like this is the current contrast ratio of your background and the foreground color of your of your view. And you said we have the foreground color is this and the background color is this. And same for the next one is the touch target size here. The item size, as I declared here, 24 dips for my view. So it shows me like it should be 48 wide and 48 high or larger than that. And the other two issues are also related to the text contrast. So this is how you can use accessibility scanner for your Android applications to find issues that are maybe you already existed in your applications. You can simply run it and see if there is any issues. You can easily fix those. And even if when you are writing your XML, it shows you the options. So in my case, it shows me like content description is missing for this field. So you can simply add content description or set important for autofill, or so important for accessibility, and you can set it to no, and it will not showing any kind of warning or related to content description. And now I can show you that espresso test, how it's going to show me any kind of issues if it finds any issues related to this layout. So I written one accessibility test here. What it will do, it will go to that small tiny button that I set to 24 dips here, this button, and perform click action on that. So I added the accessibility rules here. I tell it to like not show me any kind of color contrast issues related to that view, and check from the root view like all the views that are existed in my layout. So test is running. So if you see it's failed, let's see what went wrong. So if you see here, it shows me like there's one accessibility error, and it's related to that particular view. It says like screen density is this, and minimum touch target is this 48 dips, and actual size is 24. So if you fix that issue in your layout, it should work. So if we do 48, and we can run again our test, and we'll see if it works. So now a test pass. So this is how easily you can integrate your accessibility testing in your UI tests. And next thing is about the accessibility scanner. So if you want to test your UI's early stage of your applications, in 4.2 Canary channel of Android Studio, they integrated accessibility scanner in the Android Studio. So if you see here, this tiny icon in the design mode, this is for accessibility scanner. And when you hover over it, it will say like run accessibility scanner. So if you run it during the development, you can easily find issues at the early stage of your development rather than after going for production and then you finding issues related to accessibility. So here I found two issues like low contrast here, and it also shows me the same details that we found later, like the ratio should be greater than 4.5 and existing ratio is like 1.4.2, and same here. And if you will fix those issues like the text related issues here, you will easily fix the issues related to accessibility. So this is all about how we can easily test our layouts, and there are properties like if you want to set something just to make sure that all your clickable actions should at least have minimum width like 48, you can add properties like min width and min height to set it to 48 dips for all your clickable items in your layout, so that accessibility is always met for those views. So those are the two properties that you can set for your clickable actions like min height and min width. The next thing that I would like to show is about design over user experience. So sometimes we get a cool design from our designers. So in this case, like we have a name and it has this counter that we need to show. So the material design library version 1.0, it has an accessibility issue related to that text input text view. So I can show you what actually the issue is. So I use this just to make sure that like whenever you get the designs, like it might be not available or it's in the early stage of development from let's say a material design library. So just rather than start integrating those components into your apps, you just I would say just make sure that it's also working or also providing the enough right information in terms of accessibility to the end user so they can easily understand what those components are basically for. So I can show you what's the issue for that view actually in 1.0 in material design. So if I turn on my talkback for that.
Hello Espresso. Oh, name, edit box.
This edit
double
box,
tap to edit
when I
text,
select
double
it,
tap and hold to long press, edit options available. Use swipe up. Character limit exceeded 0 of 30.
So now if you see it says character limit exceeded 0 out of 30, which is like totally wrong, right? Because we didn't enter anything yet and it says character limit is exceeded for no reason, and that's the issue. And when I opened this issue for the material design library, they fixed it in the later versions, but like I found this issue is like very late in our development, and we need to totally change our designs, and we at the end we remove that counter button from our
Talkback on. Espresso from our library
from our application. And yeah, so just to make sure if everything is working fine, you need to make sure that like if you're using which version you are using, you should make sure that it's working fine for all the it should meet the at least minimum accessibility requirements. So if I update it to the latest one, which is 1.2.1, it works perfectly. I can show you in a second. So let's run our app now.
No SIM card, emergency calls only. 4:37 p.m. Talkback on. Oh, name, edit box. Characters entered 0 of 30.
So now it says character entered 0 out of 30, which makes sense. At least we can understand like what actually it's talking about. Before it was saying like in version 1.0 here in the Gradle dependencies, like this version 1.0, it says like character exceeded, but now it works as expected. It's actually telling me like how many characters entered and how many characters are left for you to enter in that particular field. So this is all about the accessibility that I shows you just.
Screen off.
And I added few references here. They well documented, like they added all the sample for the documentation purpose for accessibility, where you can find the require all the code labs and everything. It's all there. You can go through the accessibility related it's well documented by the Android team now, at least. Before like 2 or 3 years earlier, there is no much documentation about that, but now there are code labs and all they explained like how we can test and how we can use different tools. So thank you everyone for your time. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much. Let's give a +1 to Nav for an awesome Android accessibility session. Thank you so much. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yes.
So there was a question, but I think you just answered it. Rakesh said, "Is there any documentation for Android to follow standard of accessibility?" And I think you just that was your last slide, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a,
Would
yeah.
you be able to copy and paste those links into the chat?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, Rakesh has another awesome question. I'll just wait until. Do you want to copy and paste those first and then get to the question, or do you want me to just go right into the question?
You can go right. I found the link. Yeah.
Okay. Rakesh asked, we are currently following WCAG 2.1 standard. Will it apply for Android also? And do web and Android need to follow the same standard? Really good question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, it follows the same standard. It's a very interesting question. Really like it. So yeah, whosoever is asked that question, it's basically following the web guidelines because before, I think a year ago, we don't have a heading kind of properties that I showed earlier, like accessibility heading property. So now they added those properties to make sure that we treated headings in our Android applications too. So basically, if you are following the same guidelines for Android, yeah, they're trying to match with the web. So they're providing like a universal experience, like wherever you are using your like a user using your content, they should understand like the same way. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I actually have a question. You were
Yeah.
talking about user testing, and you were talking about how the in-person testing, how you get a lot of information from the users that way. With COVID on, and we can't do like most of our stuff is through video or email or whatever. What do you have a video platform that you like to use most for user testing, or what type of
Uh,
what type of platform do you use when you do the in-person testing?
Yeah, basically, I never did any. So far, I don't have any experience because I worked with some of our testers. So I usually do my own testing, but actually, I didn't work with the people, those who have any kind of disability issues. So I think working with them in person is making more sense rather than using any kind of platforms, I think, to get a more information or understanding how their mental situation at that particular time. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so would you say like when you do you talk to your testers about what type of platforms they use? Do they say, "Hey, this is awesome," or have you talked to them about that part yet?
No, I think we just leave that, like the user testing, I totally leave that part on them, like how they working on that part. But for the other issues like Talkback and accessibility scanner and writing UI test, that I do by my own, like we do as a developers. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Awesome. Thank
But at
you.
Manulife, we never compromise with the accessibility. Like we need to like it's a very tight guidelines for us. Like we can compromise our designs. Like I showed that count characters,
Mhm.
it has the issue, and we just eliminate that design from our app, and we wait for the next stable version which fixed that issue, and we then integrated it back again into our app. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's nice to know that Manulife really cares about their users to make sure that that they can easily read them no matter what their ability is. But that's really good.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for Nav? Nikesh, thank you for your two questions. That was awesome. Dino, are you there? You had some really cool ideas for Android, for an Android app. Do you have any questions now that you've seen all the cool code samples that Nav has given? The reason why I'm asking Dino is because Dino is in grade 7, and he wants to be, a
Oh, nice.
yeah, he wants to be a dev. So he has this really cool
Oh,
idea for an app. and I really want to, see if he has any really cool questions. This
Yeah,
budding
sure.
mind is awesome.
Yeah, it's a young mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I found like most of the like accessibility, it's not like people don't care about when it comes to designing layouts, because I personally using some platforms like Ray Vendelick. I don't know if you heard about that. It's an educational platform,
No, I haven't.
and yeah, and they're providing Android tutorials about accessibility and all that stuff. And I just tested their app and they have a lot of issues. And then I contacted them like you should work on that too. Like then just providing tutorials doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Maybe they'll hire you. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Rakesh has one more question. We can have one more question before we have to wrap up. He said,
Yeah.
did you face any major challenges when dealing with the recycle view with different items?
So basically, like I don't know if it's he's asking about in terms of accessibility. So if you want to trade like a different items, like I don't, I have one sample, but right now I don't have that. I didn't add it into my slides, but I can share that link,
Yeah, that'd be
and you
great.
can, yeah, I can share that link. And they explained how you can write your custom actions for your accessibility.
Mhm.
So in the recycler views, if you write only if you can write a custom actions, like if you're a contact list, we simply don't want to speak anything related to contact. So when you select that item, it should say like open that contact or something like that. So in this link that I just added, Rakesh, you can just follow that link, and they explained very well how you can write your custom links for especially for recycler view items. But there is no any like I can say like there is no any tough situations that you can't deal right now in Android. It's like really cool libraries and all that stuff is existing that easily can help you to write custom accessibility right in easier way.
Okay. So Rakesh just clarified. He said, for example, I show one card half, second card complete, and third card half. My team says we need to make accessibility read only for the complete visible item. Does that make sense?
So yeah, if it how accessibility works, it selects that card. Like when you start moving to the items, it will select it will not select on if it will select the full card. Even if it's not visible to the screen, it will select the full component and it will speak about that. So it's gonna work like that way. It's not going to speak because it's gonna select if you're adding the accessibility to the items, like if you follow that tutorial that I just said, like announce sections, you will treat, because in recycler view we want to treat a single item as a single item even for accessibility too, like even if it has multiple sub components like image text views, so it will treat it as a single item. And if whenever you use the talkback, it will select the full item and treat it as a single item, and it will speak the full text whatever you added there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so very much,
Right.
Nav. That was awesome. Can we get a +1? Yay for Nav. That's awesome. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Everybody, we're going to be closing up the Dev Fest soon, so I hope to see you all on the stage. And then,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, it'll be great. Thanks so much, Nav, again. And thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a good
Yeah.
night.
You too. Bye. Take care.
Bye.